This podcast is brought to you by our lovely Anime Addicts community, which you can be a part of over at AAADiscord.com. But hey, if you want to get our exclusive content, our Hobby Addicts, our hentai episodes, and our after parties, you can go to AAApodcast.com/join or Patreon. The podcast does rely on your support, and, we will wither and die, just like Caroline's dill, her dill plant. You know, if you listen to Hobby Addicts, you would get that reference, but we're working on the dill plant. Caroline looks very sad. Anyway, with that, we're going to start the podcast. So enjoy, and thanks for being a supporter and a good fan.
Get ready! You're about to listen to the Anime Addicts Anonymous podcast. Make your anime addiction worse at AAApodcast.com. And now, here are your anime addicts.
What is up, my fellow sorcerers and spirits, to episode 711 of the Anime Addicts Anonymous podcast. My name is Mason, and I am your host today on this very Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2-ist of episodes, and all sorts of fun stuff. No, we're not talking about our favorite convenience store items today, though I'm sure Mitsugi could rattle off a long list of his 7-Eleven favorites. But yeah, we are here today to talk anime and make your anime addiction worse. With me, first is my brother, Mitsugi. How's it going? What do you got in your nose there?
Mitz is doing good. I'm just watching the annual collapse of the Dallas Cowboys as they are already losing to Green Bay. Yep. So, but I'm here. I have a homemade ginger ale with ginger that I shaved, minced, and concentrated myself, and it has vodka in it. So we're gonna get fucking wild today. Good to be here.
Wow.
Nice to have you. And also my sister, Caroline. Not actually
brother.
My brother.
But Mitsugi, you are no brother of mine because you dissed my dill.
You told me it was dying.
I didn't say it was dead.
I said it was wilting.
I just saying that it's hit a little bit of rough patch and it's 3 weeks of life, and you just completely wrote it off.
You know what? To redeem yourself, you need to buy the ginger plant pod and then grow it to make up a literal olive leaf for Mitsugi's next ginger ale. But yeah, welcome everyone.
I'm hoping that it's going to bounce back. It's just ugly. Okay.
Look,
it's just dill.
I have killed every form of plant known to man in our house. The only plant I have managed to keep alive for 4 years is our string of pearls that's in the bedroom. That thing is pretty big, but I even killed a cactus, like a big one. So,
wow.
I can kill anything, so don't feel bad. You can just eat the dill. Just eat it. It'll still taste good.
I know it's fine, but it's still in its growing period. It's just an awkward teenager right now. It might be wilting, but I'm sure it's going to be fine.
It's just a phase.
Keep it off drugs.
It is just a phase. At least it better be.
Keep it off the drugs. Don't drink and drive.
I will make sure it stays the right path.
Anyway, for all your plant talk, listen to our Hobby Addicts episode, which you can get by being a supporter by going to aapodcast.com and giving us a little bit of your hard-earned money, and we will give you tons and tons of extra content, including hentai episodes, after parties, and just a bunch of goodies, if you know what I mean. But today, we're talking Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2. We're talking about all the shows we've been watching besides Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2. And we're doing this all on Twitch, where we stream live every Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time-ish. And, if it's cold outside, it's frigid across the United States right now.
Oh, my God.
Come on in. Listen in. Put on your earplugs. Keep your ears warm and listen to us, and we'll keep you toasty in your heart, full of fire and rage for our bad takes. So, anything else before we kick this off?
It was so cold in Denver yesterday. I took my dog out to pee, and she peed. And it was just, freezing as it it hit the ground and froze, and there was like a reverse icicle coming up off the ground of dog pee. Because it was
Love to see
the
it.
wind chill was literally.
I was gonna say that as a joke because I didn't think it was possible.
Pissing icicles.
There's dog pee snow
literally
cones
as
everywhere.
it appears in the universe. I did actually watch a video of somebody who took like a bowl of ramen and they like took a fork, they scooped up the ramen, they balanced the fork on something and weighted down with something else so that the fork was basically in mid-air as they were freezing it, and they brought it back inside, and it worked. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's
yeah. You sound impressed.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the end goal of that was.
It's art. Just to see if a fork can be frozen in midair.
I thought they were making a ramen popsicle, and they can just like.
It's art.
Last year it was so cold. Some guy got his jeans wet, took them off, and threw them in the air, and they stuck into the ground like a fucking flag. They were just sticking straight up.
I saw that too. It was good.
Yeah, well, it's usually when it's this cold in Denver, it comes and goes pretty fast. But we're going into day 4 tomorrow. The high is like 0, so it's gonna be great. But that's about all I got. Anything else?
So I hope you stayed inside and watched anime with all that time.
I sure did.
Nope, you played Resident Evil 3.
I did both.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I'm productive.
Will see.
Okay,
in other news, I think I got my new web camera figured out into a decent angle here. So much so you can see the leaning tower of boxes in the background, courtesy of my new desktop. So I have to get rid of those at some point.
Yeah.
Here we go.
But yeah, I say we start the show.
It's time for big news of the week.
It was a slow news week once again.
Very slow. Yes.
Yeah. I had to this one is an okay piece of news. It's not something I extremely wanted to talk about, but I felt like, we needed something. So, The Boy and the Heron was awarded the Golden Globe for Best Animated Film. And it's actually the first ever time that an anime film has won a Golden Globe. So that's pretty cool.
That's so Miyazaki's arguably worst movie is the one that got the Golden Globe.
I don't know.
I'm puzzled by that.
Actually, I've heard people say it's one of his best. But,
what?
I mean, to each their own.
Okay. As a Ghibli expert, I would say they are wrong.
It's funny because the people who would appreciate this movie the most are the Ghibli experts.
These are the same people that say Porco Rosso sucks, probably. So I don't know what to say about that.
Anyway, congrats.
Well, it won against films that were nominated, like Suzume, also another anime film, as well as Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, the Super Mario Brothers movie, Elemental, and Wish. So pretty good.
Huzzah.
That.
Yay, anime.
Sounds like some really weak competition, to be honest.
I don't know. Suzume was a pretty good movie. Honestly, in terms of my enjoyment, I would have picked Suzume over Boy and the Heron, but yeah, I don't think this wasn't for Caroline's favorite movie of the year. This was Golden Globe's best animation, so.
And in other news, Dallas just threw an interception, so.
There you go. That's your big news.
They're going to fucking lose. Okay. All right. Mason, what do you got?
My big news of the week is Dorohedoro is finally getting an anime sequel. Huzzah. The crowd goes CG crazy because I love Dorohedoro. We all love Dorohedoro, I think.
I don't love
Caroline,
it.
what do you think of Dorohedoro? You haven't seen it, but back in the day, back in 2020, all 4 hosts on the AAA podcast gave Dorohedoro at least a 4. That's quality you can trust.
I did hear good things about it.
And it's been a while. It's been years, but we were finally getting a sequel to the 2020 one that aired on Netflix. I don't know when this new series is going to be airing. I don't know where. I'm assuming Netflix, but you don't know. So pretty much no info has gone with this. No release, more importantly, no info on the studio or staff. But I'm glad we're finally getting more of this crazy world. If you haven't checked it out, the CG is a bit of a unique flavor, but I think it really lends itself to a really endearing and just bizarre show that you don't see all the time. So if you haven't checked it out, Dorohedoro, watch it. It's not Dororo. It sounds similar. It's different, and it's really good. And there's a big shark, and there's silly devils, and there's a funny little alligator boy, and they're all awesome. So, yeah, I'm excited. You should be too.
Good.
And that's all I got. With that, let's go to our main topic, which is just the classic "What
Yeah.
have we been watching" segment,
yeah.
where we all just kind of review what we've been getting our eyeballs on these last couple weeks, outside of reviews, outside of impressions, which will start up next week. So if you haven't watched any of your winter 2024 shows, get started so you can follow along. And this is just what we've gotten up to in the meantime. So does anyone want to go first?
Caroline would like to lead off with the live action of One Piece.
I haven't started it yet.
Oh,
Oh,
no.
gum
been
gum
busy.
I was
disappointment.
counting on this.
Listen, I just finished one of 3 anime penalty watches.
How do you
was
have
not
so
going to
many
jump in-
penalties?
Because I do bets, Mitsugi, and
And
this
you
is the
lose
only
them
thing I
all,
can bet on.
apparently.
I do not lose them all. I won very handsomely during Mid-Wars, okay? That is my one claim to fame.
and what
is that
did you
I won
win?
Mid-Wars once.
What did you win?
Glory and fame.
At least I have the balls to bet. Mitz.
Ooh, got him. Mid-wars are tough to win, so a crown in that is truly not to be looked down upon.
Damn.
Yeah, you can go first, though, Caroline.
Caroline
Sure,
attacks
Easy
my
damn.
manhood.
So let's talk about the one penalty watch I did actually do. And if you're wondering what the heck am I talking about, we have the betting degeneracy on our Discord. We have certain bets that we can do. Most people bet to our podcast, which we are always thankful for. Thank you very much. But since, I'm kind of part of the podcast, it doesn't seem right that I bet money that eventually goes back into the thing that I'm associated with. So instead, I bet on watching shows, movies, etc. And so, because I lost one of the bets, I had to watch a show that was voted on by the group, and they voted for Link Click. So I'm not going to talk too much about this right now because we will be coming out with a separate episode with the Waifu Lifu group.
It's
that'll be
back,
coming
baby.
out. Yeah, I have not started editing it yet, so I don't know when it will come out, but it will come out, and that's a much longer discussion. But I will say, Link Click season 1 really good, especially if you're not totally like that put off by episodic stuff. It is a bit episodic, but it still has a decent enough through line to keep me interested. It kind of throws you into the world of this show and doesn't give you a lot of explanations at first. And I'm sure, actually, they didn't really give a ton of explanations even throughout the first season. I think there will be more explanations to come in the second season, and I can't wait to get into it because it left off on such a crazy cliffhanger. I had to stop myself from starting season 2 at that second because we had to do our
season 1 is a little episodic, but
Yeah.
season 1 ends with that big cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Now imagine every episode ending with that big cliffhanger and
That's
going
season
one to the
2?
other. That's season 2. It's just a nonstop,
Oh my
crazy banger alert. One of the most
I can't
inventive
wait.
OPs. It's. I think you'll have a blast with it. It's a little
Yeah,
wild.
I'm
It's a little
excited.
different in tone, but I'm excited.
Should I even say what it's? I didn't even say what it was about. But you've already talked about it before.
You can give a quick primer on selling it on people who've never heard of it before.
Yeah, so Mason talked a bit about it before on the podcast, but it's basically it's a Chinese anime about 2 guys. They work at a photo shop, and they also have some supernatural abilities that involve being able to look at a photo and look into the timeline of that photo, like from when it's taken up to like 12 hours after the fact, so they can see what events happens after they take that photo. And the other guy can jump into those photos and take over a person's body and do things on their behalf. And so people come up to them like, hey, can you do this thing for me? I hear you have some... they kind of explain in a way very nonchalantly how crazy it is that they can do this. And yet they're saying like, hey, I hear you can jump into... I don't know how they even understand
Time travel detectives
Time
that
travel
can
through photos.
manipulate the past.
So they have this whole business, and they help people investigate things, and yeah, pretty mysterious powers that have not yet really been explained to me anyway. But I'm excited for season 2. It's gonna be great.
Very nice.
Green Bay just scored a touchdown. It's 14-0 now.
I love how whenever we're doing a
Collapse.
podcast, you're either watching a hentai or watching football.
Pretty soon I'll be watching
Why
all
not
my
both?
ecchi anime. I'm really excited to watch all my ecchi shows. So
You know what, Mitz? I think
Mm-hmm.
one of these days you should, when we're doing a podcast, you should watch both a hentai and football at the same time. And then you're
Well-
like, what? What? Oh my God.
If they bring back cheerleaders, I could have both, but I haven't seen a cheerleader on
Oh,
TV in
dear.
like 100 years, so
That's paid content. That's what you have to go to the game for.
that's true. And I was at the Nuggets game on Friday night, and there were cheerleaders. And they were also an army of small children from a dancing school at halftime, dancing like they were trying to all get laid that night. And I'm like, why are 8-year-olds like pussy popping on the floor in front of?
Don't say that. Ugh.
That's just what happened. I'm just telling you the facts. So, yeah, it was pretty unfortunate.
I haven't been to very many basketball games, but in the halftime, the intermission, do they have kids come out and play basketball?
Well, they do. So they do a lot of stuff. Like, team calls timeout. They'll bring out like a game for 2 minutes and play a game, and
They have people
it's
like
always
shooting
something
baskets
different.
to win a prize or t-shirt cannons. Yeah, I get that. But like at hockey games, the best part is in between periods. They put all the 5-year-olds out
They do
there
that.
on the ice,
They
and they're
do that
just
at the
falling
hockey.
over and eating shit, and it's the funniest thing ever. But do they do that in basketball?
They don't do it for basketball, but they do it at the hockey games here. So I've been to a lot more hockey games than I had basketball games in Denver, and both our hockey and basketball teams are excellent, so we usually win. But
I want to see little kid basketball with like 40 kids aside. They still keep the hoops at the high level though, so they can't quite make it in.
it's
so they're
hard
just
for little
heaving
kids.
it.
They're not
You ever
strong enough to
seen-
throw the ball up there.
Have you ever
That's
seen
why
those
it's
videos
funny.
of like, I think it might even been in Japan where it's 100 kids playing soccer against
Versus
three
pros.
professional.
That's a classic.
soccer
Yeah, that's
players.
what I want.
Yeah, it's just like
That
it's
sounds
the
fun.
little running for me. It's so
Their
cute.
legs are so small and they just trip and they just fall, but they don't have far to fall, so it's really fun. Okay, what anime, Mitz, what have you
Yes,
been watching?
let's get back to that.
They're slide tackling them, and like the little kids just fly up like bowling pins.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
So I noticed that there's a lot of Gundam stuff on Netflix. So I realized that I have seen intermittent Gundam series for the podcast over the last 10 years. I probably have seen 5 Gundam shows, which is more than most people, in fairness, but there's like a lot more than 5. So Gundam probably has like 30 plus OVAs and TV series.
oh, at least, yeah.
So I decided I was going to watch the mobile, and I'm not worthless this week, I will note, by the way, for this topic. I watched all 3 of the Gundam compilation films that basically summarize the original 43 episode or whatever it is, Mobile Suit Gundam. These films all came out in the early 80s. The
Yep.
first one came out in 1981, and the last one came out in 1982. And they are the summation of the TV show. And they are long movies, so they total about 7 hours total. So it's about the length of a full 2-course series, so it wasn't nothing. And it was pretty enjoyable and definitely educational from me as an anime viewer. It's Gundam, whether you like it or not, is a big chunk of anime's history, and most people should go check out the Gundam movies. One, because they're not bad. Like they're pretty good for something made in the early 80s, and they are, just very important because this is the thing that kicks off like a multi-billion-dollar industry and everything else. So the story of Gundam, as I know it, and by the way, I have Frigimon Fanatic, our friend who comes on the podcast sometimes, kind of guiding me and answering questions and telling me like what I should watch next, and so I'm going to continue with this. And essentially, in the Universal Century 0079, half of Earth's population now lives around the Earth in space colonies. It's about half, and they have different sides of the planet. So like there's territories around the Earth called side 1, side 2, whatever. It's just like the different parts of the outside of the Earth, of the sphere. There's a section called Side 3 that declares itself to be independent from the governmental rule of like the Earth Federation that controls the Earth and all the colonies. And they go, well, fuck you, we don't need to be a part of this. So this Principality of Zeon is created from the space colonies inside 3. It totals about 150 million people, and they launch a war of independence against the Earth. Now, what you don't know, and it comes in, it pops up in movie 3, and apparently more in Gundam: The Origin, but Zeon is essentially an insert for the Nazis. So, and they definitely go into it enough in movie 3 that it becomes very clear, because they have rhetoric such as, we are like a superior race. It would be better if there were less humans, because it would be easier to cultivate stronger humans if there were less of them. So we need to cull the weak, and it'd be fine if like the entire population of the Earth died, because then we'd be left with just a superior race and in orbit and all this. And so it's pretty much Nazism. In fact, they even mention Adolf Hitler in that conversation like several times. The guy goes, I can't remember who said it, but he's like, have you ever heard of Adolf Hitler? Because this sounds exactly like what Adolf Hitler said. And the guy's like, well, blah, 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 whatever. So Zeon is essentially Hitler. I don't know, you can call the Earth Federation the Allies or something. I don't know, but it starts off as about this kid named Amuro Ray, whom a lot of you maybe have heard of because he's like the original Gundam pilot. And he is just like this kid born on Earth and raised in one of the space colonies around the Earth. And his father is one of the people that helped to develop the Gundam. And during just like a random skirmish on his colony, he ends up piloting the Gundam at age 15. And so he's in the Gundam and he's learning how to use it, but he's a notorious machinist and a very skilled an engineer. He's somewhat of a genius, even though he's only like 15. And he turns out to be what is known as a new type. Yeah, and as the Captain Avatar says, he reads the manual. He's literally reading the manual for the Gundam as he's piloting it. Yeah. Because he doesn't know how to use it. He's just like, what am I doing? He ends up being a new type, which is something that I think appears multiple times in Gundam, although I'm not a Gundam expert, but I'm working on it. And a new type is kind of like a human that has sort of evolved a little bit to have some ESP type powers.
Brain juice pumping in there.
Yeah, exactly. So they're able to have telepathy and some other things, and are able to even anticipate the future, maybe up to half a second in advance, which makes battle very easy. So Amuro is a very adept Gundam pilot, and so the span of the 3 movies is a lot of battles between the Earth Federation and Zeon. So if you're someone who likes watching outer space battles or skirmishes on the ground with robots that are not super robot, these are real robot for them. Yeah, I'd say they're real robot. If a laser goes through them, they explode. They're not super powered. They're not throwing planets around like in fucking Gurren Lagann, which honestly I detest that type of robot. I think it's just stupid. I love the robots like in Ava, where they have 5 minutes of battery. That's what I like, But and of course Char Anzabel, who is, one of the Red Comet, the most probably the most skilled pilot in the Zeon as far as these movies go, has multiple encounters with Amuro, which he never seems to win any of them, but nonetheless he's kind of a good character. And he's the character that created the entire, you see those characters in Gundam that always have, the mask on while they're piloting. that started with him. So you're getting a placement in the history of, Gundam in an anime. And I think even the New Type magazine was probably named after the New Types in Gundam, which New Type magazine doesn't exist anymore, but it was an anime magazine that was quite good. And it existed for a little while. But all 3 of these movies are quite excellent. They're on Amazon, or they're on Netflix. They total about 2 hours and 15 minutes apiece, and it actually does cut the runtime of the original series by 50% roughly. It is old. It looks old. It doesn't suck because it's old. It just looks old. So, but hey, the good news is that if you end up liking it a lot, you can go get an anime cell from it, which would be pretty neat. And now I'm told that from here I need to go watch Gundam 0080 and then after that, 8th MS Team. that's what I've been told I need to watch. So I'm gonna go try to find those. Those are both OVAs. Those they should be shorter. And those are my marching orders. So, and I have designs on maybe if I end up getting through like 10 of these properties, that I might do like a bonus episode with Frigimon, and maybe I'll try to get some of the Gundam at MAHQ guys on to do like a bonus episode with me. I'm pretty sure I can summon Solbro from wherever he is. I might be able to find Chris. I'm not sure about, you know, I don't want to give all their real names out, but yeah, we'll see. It could be a good time. So Gundam, pretty based stuff. I like it. Not a lot of bullshit in this anime. Not a lot of like fluff or ecchi or just filler. It's just a bunch of like hard-nosed battles and politics. So pretty good.
Yeah, it's a better crash course of Gundam from the beginning compared to watching the show, because it fine-tunes it to a much more refined, spearhead. So starting with the trilogy is the way to go.
And the last thing I'll say is that Netflix also has Mobile Suit Gundam Hathaway and Mobile Suit Gundam Char's Counterattack. They're both on there. And I was very surprised today to find that there is actually a shitload of Gundam on Crunchyroll. So there is, I would venture to say half of all the Gundam stuff is on Crunchyroll. And it's a long fucking list, but if you want to watch some Gundam and want to learn some things about, like, where the mecha genre came from, you can get pretty far with the stuff on Netflix and Crunchyroll. So you won't have to like buy DVDs or pirate too much. So that's about it.
I don't have my favorite Gundam on Crunchyroll, so big sad.
Which is what?
Thunderbolt, which I think universally Gundam fans do not like it as much as I do, but it's so cool. There's so much jazz in it. Oh, it's so sick.
All right.
I will talk. I also watched a movie kind of in the opposite end of Mitsugi beginning a grand series. I watched the concluding movie for Kaina of the Great Snow Sea.
Oh, boy.
This is a show we reviewed, I think, way back on episode 672 of the podcast. It was kind of unique. It's Polygon Picture, so it's all CG. This is one of those Nihei creations who's done a bunch of interesting stuff. He makes really cool worlds. But this one kind of felt a little lackluster. But I noticed that on Crunchyroll, you can watch the finale movie. And I was like, you know what? I want to see how it ends. So this is called Kaina of the Great Snow Sea, Star Sage. And obviously, if you've never seen the show, don't watch this movie because it's just like a final big episode. It's about an hour, 40 minutes.
Dang.
And only watch this movie if you really loved the show. But if you're probably someone like Mitz or Caroline who watched the show and you're like, oh, I guess the ending is out now. Is it worth me going back? Seen it. Okay, fair enough. Well, if Mitz is like, I remember that show vaguely, is it worth me going back to watch the movie? Probably not. No, it just felt like a long episode of the show, which kind of, it didn't recap anything, but it almost repeated all the same story beats. They travel, they find another civilization that has views of militaristic expansion and domain with ideals that don't quite clash with environmentalism and all the preservation of the world, and they have to kind of fight both figuratively and in their ideals to change their opinions, and then they win, and then spoilers, the day is saved, the earth becomes desnowed, and it's very fine. It does what it needs to do to conclude things, but really it's not so great in any way that is like, oh, you gotta watch it. I think the best word to describe it is functional. You watch it, you're like, okay, that's how it ends.
It's Kaina and the functional Snow Sea.
Yes, exactly. It's not great in the slightest. It looks on par as the visuals of the TV series, so it's not like they got a bigger, better budget or, more time. It works. It concludes it. It's over. Now I can continue to not think about it because it wasn't really occupying much brain space. So there you go. If you were curious, sorry I kind of spoiled it for you, but it's whatever. And we can move back to Caroline now.
That's long though. I mean, that's half the length of the TV show. An hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah, that's like 5 or 6 episodes. So
it wasn't the TV show 12?
I think so. I don't remember if it was
Yeah,
12 or
exactly.
11. I think it was actually, I think it might have been 11. So yeah, it was over half of a TV show, and it kind of just repeated the same story beats. So meh
Meh.
is my review.
Okay.
What do you got,
Sounds
Caroline?
enticing. Well, recently for Anime Club, we decided to discuss The Night of Short Walk On Girl, and I never saw it up until that point. I saw the Tatami Galaxy. Have not seen Time Machine Blues, but I will plan to do that. But yeah, I've always been very interested in this movie because just for one thing, it's just the art style. I freaking love this art style.
I love when they
It's so
drink.
nice.
Gloop, and they're like big liquid just gets
Yeah,
pressed
it's
down their
very
neck.
cartoony in that way.
Ah, so
Um,
funny.
the movie starts and I'm really into it. Like this whole journey of this girl, our main character, just seeing where the wind takes her on a night out, what fate has in store, and it's something extremely crazy. And she meets a lot of different people, and meanwhile, you have a guy that's pining over her and trying to get her attention. Meanwhile, she's having the time of her freaking life, and he keeps on running into massive problems in pursuit. And if it just kept with the same vibes as the first segment of the movie, where that culminates in her having a drinking game with a god, basically, I would have been sold. Sorry, I got a bug in my face. I would have been sold on the rest of the movie, but it did not do the rest of the movie. It kind of is a bit of a conglomeration of segments. It feels like that all happen in this one night, and it just gets weirder and weirder. Um,
You love singing, Caroline. You didn't like the musical part?
oh, it was interesting. I will say that I didn't hate the rest of the movie. It didn't hit the same high as the first part for me. Uh, and maybe I would feel different if it was like a show. Then I kind of know in similar ways to the Tatami Galaxy, like you have your good episodes and your not so good episodes. But because it's a movie, it kind of felt like, okay, when are we wrapping up here? And I hate
Yeah.
saying that. I mean, but it is good. Um, and I recommend people watch it, just for the style, and it can be fun, and maybe my opinions are not shared amongst everyone, but for the most part, I'm glad I was able to watch it. And
Yeah, that movie is
yeah,
such a taco for me
a
because
taco.
it begins so good and so strong, and you're all engaged. And you're like, oh, we're meeting all these crazy, wacky characters, and they all kind of merge together, and she's just trucking and doing her thing. And then it hits like that lull in the middle of like, do I really care about all of this? No.
Yeah,
And then they give the speech at the end where he's like in his own head thinking about like, should I confess to this girl? And it's unbelievable. It's one of my favorite speeches in all of anime. Just the way he's in his own head about, if I say I like
oh,
her,
and
like
all
that
of his
that
mini, like
yeah,
himself is just like running around
that
his
exposes
brain.
me as being someone who's just out there seeking someone. Am I not good enough for myself? And he just is just
Hmm.
so much like conflicting, and her, tumultuous path to get him the soup to come, like that ending is phenomenal. And it's just, you just have to go through that little valley in the middle. But I walk away liking moments from that movie a lot, and the movie as a whole somewhat.
I
But it's
agree.
still good. It's so
Yeah.
stylish. It's got personality. And
It did make me feel like, oh, now I want to watch more Tatami Galaxy.
it's so good. Yuasa and it's amazing.
Hmm. There you have it.
Nice. Mitz, what's next?
Well, much
Unless you
to
have a football update.
I don't, but Green Bay's about to score again. So,
Uh,
yep. Yeah, I mean, Dallas just sucks. What do you want me to say? So, well, Mason, much to your pleasure, I think, I watched the first OVA of Bebop High School.
oh my goodness.
I did. I watched
It
it.
only
See,
gets
whenever
better.
I
It
hear you
only
guys
gets
talk
better.
about Bebop High School, I keep on thinking it's Cowboy Bebop in chibi form as
In high
characters going
school,
to high
like
school.
Attack
Yeah,
on
that's what I think
Titan,
of.
or
So what is Bebop High School?
unfortunately, no. It's better than that.
So Bebop High School, so the synopsis on my anime list: for the invincible and basically happy punk lads Hiroshi and Toru What they care about every day is to get a lot of attention from girls and to win the fights against the lads from the other schools. Whenever provoked, they just go out fighting and settle the situation no matter what it costs. That's the synopsis. And that pretty much sums up the first episode, I would say. Which I did only watch the first episode. This motherfucker's long. I mean, it is 7 1-hour OVAs. So strap yourself in.
To be fair, you only have to watch 6 of them because the last one is garbage.
Why?
It just is bad. It's just like a add-on bonus thing. So you only have to do 6, and they get better. They get so much better.
Well, the main characters, Hiroshi and Toru. I don't like his name. I'm just gonna call him Nakama, which basically just would mean friend,
You should just
I
call
guess.
them Todo, because they're essentially Todo from Jujutsu Kaisen. Just these big, buff dudes going around just doing their own thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of these guys getting dumped by girls and feeling bad about themselves and getting picked on by their friends about it, and randomly starting fights with other punks in like the street for absolutely no reason whatsoever, and just inventing reasons why they're gonna fight each other. You know, like some guy will talk to someone on the street for too long and be like, "Oh, you made me miss my my movie. Now I gotta fuck you up." Basically, just like ridiculous shit. But it does remind me a little bit of Shonen Junai Gumi, which is the GTO like OVA. I mean, it's not as interesting as that because Onizuka is just a great character, and this doesn't have any Zuka in it. But these guys, they're not terrible characters. There are some pretty good like, you know, Yankee boy like punk fight scenes in this. I mean, like, you know, there's some scenes where guys there's always like a notorious fighter from another school, and you know, and then it's always like, oh, you disrespect me, like we got to fight now. And so there's one scene where they just finished eating like a bunch of ramen or something, and so they're about to shit their pants, and they're gonna fight this other gang, and they could probably take them because these two guys are tough, and even though the other school's got like 10 dudes, and there's only 2 of them. But they're like basically ready to like have diarrhea all over themselves, so they have to like get the courage to like apologize for like scuffing someone's shoes or something stupid, and so that they don't like, you know, have diarrhea all over themselves, but then they end up fighting later anyway, and it's just the kind of the situation that there's a scene where the 2 of them get separated, and one of them is getting beaten up in like an old like farmhouse, and another one's getting beaten up somewhere else. But then the one guy ends up winning, and then he goes to help his buddy, and the guys are beating each other in the head with bricks and all this stuff, and it's, you know, and then at the same time, you know, they're all picking up chicks and trying to like, you know, the girls are like, oh, you're so strong, and, you know, and it's, I don't know. It's just like, for people who love the Yankee boy fighting in the beginning of like Slam Dunk, or that love the Yankee boy fighting in the beginning of Yu Yu Hakusho, or who love GTO, Shonen Junai Gumi, or even if you like Real Bout High School or one of those like trashy like Real Bout High School, that's a throwback. I meant Ikitosen. Ikitosen's a little different, but it's still not totally different because even in Ikitosen, it's like, oh, there's this other school that has this fighters, you know, Hakufu Sonsaku. You gotta go fight Hakufu Sonsaku, and now I'm gonna like go over there and beat up this chick until her clothing explodes and all this. Like, you know, it's just the same concept, minus the exploding clothing, where you're going to, you know, you have to go like, you have to have pride, and you have to like defend your territory, you know, and you're always going to class with like black eyes and all this, but at the same time, like the characters are just like goofy and funny, and you know, so it was pretty enjoyable. You know, I'm not sure why I didn't watch any more of it yet. Probably just because it's long, and I ended up watching it on my phone because I did get the files from Mason, so I Green Bay scored. It's 20-0 now. Good Lord, they must have missed the extra point. Dallas must be like, every year we suck in the playoffs. So Bebop High School was pretty good. I will maybe keep watching it. I hope I can find time. You know, I'm doing a lot of like walking uphill at the gym these days, trying to get my weight down like another 12 pounds. So that does open up some time to like watch things, and Pancake's gonna have absolutely no interest in watching these ecchi shows from the winter season, so I'm gonna be doing a lot of like watching that in bed at night while she's sleeping. So and that opens up time to watch
you should do
Bebop
it.
High School on the treadmill.
I
So-
guarantee you'll like it more than what you already do. I
Oh,
promise.
it gets better. Episode 1
It gets
isn't-
better.
It gets better from episode 1. Okay.
It does.
Now until they started like fighting and getting into it though, I was a little bored at the beginning. Like it was a lot of like walking around town and like moping and like, oh, I broke up with my girlfriend, and then guys
Yeah,
are like,
they're just being
did you
goofballs
even
with
fuck
each
her
other.
yet? Blah blah blah. What's that?
Yeah, they're just been goofballs at the beginning, and there's not much like, okay, why do I care about their story? What's But it gets there. It gets there, and you learn to love these guys and their little struggles and the shit they talk at each other, and all the situations they find themselves. And some of the animation cuts and fight scenes, especially episodes 3 and 4, are really, really neat. And you're just like, dang, that looked awesome.
The Captain Avatar asked if it was on Retro Crush. I seriously doubt it. Let me just take a look.
I don't think it's anywhere legally. Last time I checked.
Just as a general rule, if you're wondering if something is on Retro Crush, the answer is no, because that service doesn't have a lot. I'm actually blown away that shit even exists still, honestly, at this point. I can confirm it is not on Retro Crush. Cromartie High School's on there. I'm pretty sure that's a bunch of dudes fighting each other too, but yeah, it's not on Retro Crush. So anyway, that's literally all I had to share with you guys. Gundam and Bebop High School. So, I'm making my way.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I wasn't a total dud this week. So, who's next?
I'll go next. So I am not the biggest fan of Bleach. I know it's in a bit of a renaissance with its 1,000-Year Blood War coming out, but I just never really got into the series, though I loved Tite Kubo's designs. And a couple years ago, in October, the 3-episode ONA Burn the Witch came out, and I thought that was a pretty fun time. It's about this kind of magical society, this underworld that exists like on the reverse, like astral plane of London, where these 2 high school students are also being witches and mages and go around flying on dragons, solving magical problems. And it was a pretty fun time. And it felt very much like a prelude to a bigger, juicier, meatier story to come that I'm way more looking forward to than Bleach. And while that meteor story has not come out yet, they did release another ONA episode called Burn the Witch 0.8. And it's just a one single ONA in the series. And it's also similarly pretty darn fun. It came out at the very, very end of last year. You can watch, I think, both series on Crunchyroll. And yeah, this is more of a PSA if you like the first one to check out that more came out. And if you haven't seen either and like either Bleach's design sensibilities or just magical reverse Londonness, just people going around fighting dragons, it just looks really stylish. It exudes just its own, I need to stop saying personality, but it's so true. It's done by Studio Colorido, who has come out with a bunch of really unique visuals. They did A Whisker Away. They've done a bunch of Pokemon shorts. They did Penguin Highway. They just have a very clean look that is just buoyant and fun and very colorful. And if you haven't checked it out, Burn the Witch 0.8 continues the tradition, maybe a bit even better than the first. So check it out. I had fun with it. It's not deep. It's not like, oh, this changes how I see the world, but it's just dragon be funny and it's cool. So
right.
We like that. Sometimes you need something just to kind of eye bleach and enjoy cute little doggos. So yeah, that's all I got for that.
All right. Well, next up on my list is that I finished Spy X Family Season 2. Yay! Really good.
Soul.
Enjoyed it, of course. I really enjoyed the first season of Spy X Family, and Season 2 is no different. And I got something that I've been waiting a very long time for, and that would be some freaking your development of some sort, of just any focus on this one character that's apparently one of the 3 main characters that is hardly present, basically, in the first season.
Is it maybe because she's a freaking assassin and maybe having her go around like nerfing people is maybe not the best message?
Well,
I don't know. I haven't watched
that's what they
it.
did in
Tell
the
me.
second season.
Okay.
So, I would say half of this season was uh, for the cruise ship arc. Now, the cruise ship arc has been highly hyped for me because I made a TikTok about Yor and how she's barely in it. And this was back when we reviewed season 1, core 2, I think. And people really got up in arms saying like, oh my God, just you wait. Cruise ship arc is coming up next. That's what you're going to get. And I'm like, okay, I'll see.
This big boat.
Yeah, where's the big boat? And yeah, that kind of happened in the midpoint of the season. I think like 5 or 6 episodes on the cruise ship arc where Yor is given a mission to safeguard the passage of a mom and her son because they were involved in like the mafia or something. I don't know, kind of like their political issues kind of get confusing, I'll be honest, to me, because they don't really focus a lot of time on it, and whenever they do, they kind of expect you to kind of know what the deal is. But that's besides the point. Basically, she's in danger. Assassins are after her, so they're going to secretly transport her to safe harbor on this cruise ship and, you know, rendezvous and all that. So she goes under the guise of working as a government employee, which she is, and it turns out her boss at the office there is her boss in assassinations and all that, so it kind of gets wrapped up like that. And and she has to deal with a lot of assassins and try to keep them safe. Meanwhile, Lloyd and Anya won a trip onto the same cruise ship, so she's trying to keep it a secret that she has to protect this family while they are on board. And of course, Anya knows what's going on because it has telepathy. But she's trying to help her out, and she notices that like, oh my God, an assassin's coming up on her, like, and she doesn't realize it. And so she actually helps her out. They start fighting, and they are trying to keep it down low so the other passengers don't know about what's going on. And so she's like, oh my gosh, circus performers! And Yor still thinks that she doesn't realize it's her, so they just do this whole song and dance, acting like they're circus performers while they're actually trying to kill each other. Anya's great, of course, like so many great reaction faces and lines that she gives in this season. Like there's one assassin that's called like Sickle and Chain Barnaby is the name of this guy, and she's like, Sickle and Chain Barnaby. And I don't do it well. Of course I don't do it well, but I'm trying to get it across how freaking funny she is. And of course everybody knows that. And, you know, and Lloyd is trying to put on airs as being like a family man. So he's, you know, and so when Anya's acting like uninterested because she's far more interested in Yor's assassination job at that moment, he tries to bend to her wishes and starts trying on a whole bunch of these different cruise ship outfits, and he looks absolutely ridiculous. And Anya even calls him lame, which was great. Yeah, so honestly, it was a pretty good season. But only half of that was comprised of the cruise ship arc. The rest of it is pretty episodic as usual. But still, some good stuff and good focus on Damien, you know, the little turd at school. He gets some sympathy points in this season. And yeah, overall, pretty good. And I believe a movie's coming out. I don't know if it's canon or not, or if it's a filler movie. Depending on that, I'll see it. If it's canon, I'll watch it. But if not, probably not.
So overall, like on par enjoyment-wise, just more Spy Family. It knows what it's doing. It's doing it well.
Yeah, like if you did not, if you didn't like the first season, the second season probably won't sway you. But if you liked the first season, okay, but were disappointed by the lack of development with Yor, you might be pleasantly surprised by this one. And also in the first episode, Yor gets shot in the butt on a mission, and Lloyd wants to take her out on a date. And so the entire time she's trying to avoid sitting down, and he thinks that she's having like a terrible time. Meanwhile, she's just trying to keep herself from crying because she has to sit down on a butt that was just shot.
What was she shot with?
It was like a bullet. Like they took out the bullet, but it still hurt.
You got a sore hiney. It happens.
Yeah. It's stupid, but
this is why anime never. I don't find anime funny almost ever.
That's okay for you.
Because it's dumb.
At least it's fun for me. That is all that matters.
All right, here's a Gundam reference. Ready? Just one thing, communication. Tell him you've got a bullet in your ass.
Yeah, I was getting a little frustrated. I'm like, just tell him you don't want to go out today. And because he's like driving himself crazy thinking she's not having a good time. When all she had to say was, let's go tomorrow.
Or how about I went out on a mission. You know I'm an assassin, right? And I got shot.
He doesn't know that. That's the whole premise of Spy X Family.
Oh, well, that's stupid too.
You act as if you have not seen the entirety of season 1.
I saw the second core. I saw the second core of season 1.
Okay, then you should know.
And by the way, Green Bay got a pick 6. Now it's 27-0. 27-0. The game's over.
No games this year have been close in the playoffs.
Yeah, they've been all shitty.
At least a 20-point pounding.
Yeah, your last prayer is whatever the hell the game is later today. I don't know. I don't even know what it is, but anyway, okay.
Anyway, we have time for one more. Or are we good?
It's up to you guys. I'm already all out because I'm a slacker.
I mean, I can talk about one more for the most part, but if you want to go first, Mason.
I'll do a quick one. I did a Secret Santa kind of exchange thing this year, and I was gifted the show Yuri. I can't.
You weren't on my Secret Santa.
I wasn't. I don't have time for Secret Santas all the time. But watch this show. It's a comedy. It's a cute girls doing cute thing kind of show. Similar to like a Hidamari sketch, a Wasteful Days of High School Girls, a K-On, like all that stuff. You know, big, fluffy, gooey goofballs in a classroom doing nothing. The exact pinnacle of everything Mitz can't stand. And it was...
Cole would have been better.
Fine. It really is not my cup of tea. I do like some of the writing in it. I think the comedy, it's very metatextual. It's very self-aware. And the beginning of it is a little rough. I should know it's in the name Yuri. There is a lot of like Yuri baiting at the beginning where these girls are kind of infatuated with one another in a way that's very pandering to the audience that I was like, I don't like how this makes me, this is gross. I don't like it. But it definitely shifted away from it. And I think the comedy definitely improved as it went on. There's a character in it named Kyoko who's just the biggest force of undescribable anarchy. Just every scene she comes in, she is just trying to mess up every character at once by just being such an oddball. Like, her just force of energy is very fun to watch and made the show a lot more engaging. The problem is, if you're going to have a goofy, wild comedy, you need to turn it up to 11 for me. Like, shows like Asobi Asobase is funny because it takes things so far that they can't help but be comical if they're not just funny for the writing, just in tone and the situation the characters find themselves. And this show just felt like it was holding itself back just enough where it didn't commit to this big jump. And while it was, like I said, very meta and on the nose about things, it really didn't appeal to me as much as I think it could have for other people. So it was fun, well written, but just didn't quite reach the heights that I think it could have. So Yuri, fun. It's lighthearted. You probably have already seen it if you're into the cute girls doing cute things genre. You can watch it on Crunchyroll and Funimation, and I think it's also on Hulu. It's all over the place. If you like that style, stick through a couple rough episodes at the beginning, and I think you might enjoy it. If not, you already know this isn't for you, and you don't need to watch it. Tell me about My Hero Academia, Caroline.
Okay.
What am I missing out on? I dropped the show seasons ago.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm now on season 6. Season 7's coming out in the spring, I think. I'm halfway through the season, and it is so good. I mean, if you didn't like My Hero Academia already, this is not going to change your mind. But if you crave just mindless shonen and things coming back into play. So it's like, season 5 was bad. It was just not as interesting as other seasons. And that's saying something. But it's all set up for season 6 because there are so many payoffs and like twists and development. And I can't talk about it that much because we're so far in and most people probably have dropped it at this point. And if you haven't, then you know that it's good. And I can't wait to finish it.
And how far into it are you?
I am 11 episodes in. It's a
Okay.
2-4 season.
And when does 7 come out? Is it
I
the
think
season
it's
after
spring.
winter? You think it's
Yeah.
spring?
Yeah.
Okay. So you have time to catch up.
Mm-hmm. You do. But even so, I probably will wait until the season finishes again
So you
because,
can marathon.
I mean, yeah, but for the most part, I just can't trust myself to watch it week to week with my poor planning skills. So,
That's fair. That's fair. I think it was season 3 where I think I was like, I'm good. I'm
season
good.
3 is a pretty decent point where you get what you came for.
That was a good time to
and-
get off the ride
yeah.
because then you didn't have to sit through seasons 4 and 5 being kind of ho hum. But I have heard,
Yeah.
like you said, season 6 really came back strong. So I believe it. I'm happy for you. I'm happy
I
for
cannot
it.
believe there's 6 seasons of this show. I honestly
It
forgot
adds
how
up.
many seasons.
It just adds
have.
up. But I do like the Bones like scheduling of instead of running it into the ground week after week after week, giving it those half year breaks to like revamp, get people excited again, not burn
Mhm.
out on production. And I think that's a really smart way of doing it. So
Yeah, I prefer it this way anyway.
nice. I think that's a good one to end it on.
All right.
So sounds like we're all watched something good at least. And anime is still good, allegedly, even if you have to go back to the 80s to find stuff you enjoy.
And someone tried
we
to
got
assassinate
a trivia
Mason.
question for the people. Yeah.
Ooh, okay, trivia question. What film is Yuji Itadori excited to see in Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2? And we'll give you the answer after the news break.
Hey, Anime Addicts, this is Mitsugi, and I'm bringing you your anime news. Starting off with some Japan theater news, the film Spy Family Code is still at number 1 in its second weekend in Japan with an 800 million yen take-home, which is, in today's dollars, about $5.5 million. So the film sold 585,000 tickets, and the total cumulative take-home for the film is about $24 million right now, which means that it's steadily on the decline. Probably won't break 30 million if I had to bet in theaters, which is still a good amount of money, but it does fall pretty far short of films like the Slam Dunk movie, which had over $100 million in theaters. But good on Spy Family and its continuing success. Next up, the Pokemon Company donates 50 million yen after the January 1st earthquake. So for those of you that don't know, there was a 7.6 magnitude earthquake that struck the western coast of Japan. The Noto Peninsula in particular. Of course, people are freaking out about tsunamis and whatnot, which is understandable after the big tsunami that happened some time ago. But the Pokemon Company announced that it donated $345,000 to the Japanese Red Cross to support organizations to help people and to clean up the areas affected by the quake. So also, the Pokemon With You Foundation says that they will continue to support children affected by the earthquake through activities. So good on Japan, just working together to overcome tough times. Next up in the news, the manga creator, the manga Akuyaku Reijou Tensei Oji-san is getting a TV anime. The old man reincarnated as a villainous is the subtitle, and this began serializing in the Young King Hours GH magazine. There's just like a freaking million of these magazines. There are 6 volumes as of January 4th. In his previous life, the old man, a 52-year-old civil servant, has now been reborn as the villainess, reborn as Grace Auvergne. These names are brutal. The drill-haired villainess, whatever the hell, of an Otome game his daughter used to play. So, and of course he's confused by that. So that's a strange little like reincarnated isekai show coming out here sometime soon. Lastly in the news, the anime franchise Bang Dream! It's My Go! Is getting a compilation movie two-parter in 2024. So if you're a fan of this anime property, look out for that. The film is scheduled to premiere in those two parts. The titles are too annoying to say, so I'm not going to say them. The film movie is a re-edited version of the TV anime featuring new scenes, and the second part will also screen a new film live movie. If you're a fan of the anime that was produced by Sons again, came out in 2023, and a sequel titled A Bang Dream! Ave Musica is scheduled to come out in 2025, well, you're going to be able to check out something in the meantime, which is this compilation film, which will come out in 2024. This was Mitsuki, and this was your anime news break. And now, of course, time to get back to the podcast.
After Parties Hobby Addicts Hentai Episodes. After Parties Hobby Addicts Hentai Episodes. After Parties Hobby Addicts Hentai
What
Episodes.
in the world are you two doing? I'm trying to sleep here. It's midnight.
We're using Mandy's arcane power to do a content prayer dance.
Yeah, we're hoping the content gods bless us with thrilling entertainment for the fans.
Content prayer dance. You know, there's a much easier way to make better content. How about starting with studying our vast archive of additional content on AAApodcast.com?
Oh, I already have. I mean, it's only $7 a month for almost 8 additional episodes every month.
That's less than $1 per extra episode and super easy to get to. Just gotta type aapodcast.com/join to become a member.
You went through the whole archive? It's hundreds of hours.
Well, Senpai, anything's possible.
If you believe.
I think I'll just leave you two alone.
Hey, is he gone yet?
Yeah, ready.
Yeah. After Parties Hobby Addicts Hentai Episodes. After Parties Hobby Addicts Hentai Episodes.
What does Kazuo think of Evangelion?
I understand that End of Evangelion was a conclusion for the series, but that didn't come out till way later. That's like someone giving you a cheeseburger, but instead of like the meat, it's dog shit. And then later on, they're like, oh, here's the meat patty. Yeah, but I already ate this shit burger. I mean, I get that the meat patty kind of like helps, but the burger is on its own. So that's kind of how I view Evangelion. It's like a dog shit burger with a meat patty that you get later. So no, I didn't really enjoy it all that much.
You don't like eating dog shit?
I mean, only on Wednesdays.
Welcome back to the podcast. When we left you, we had a trivia question from Yu Hakusho, from Jujutsu Kaisen. Close enough. What film is Yuji Itadori excited to see in Jujutsu Kaisen? Human Earthworm 4. Not to be confused with Human Centipede 2, or Earthworm Jim.
One of the only lighthearted moments of this 2-core season.
Yes, indeed. All right. Wow. And we'll be talking about Jujutsu Kaisen in just a few minutes. But first, as we do every week, it's time for mailbags. So let's go.
It's time for an almighty anime mailbag. Anime.
Mailbag.
Oh, we synchronized our dance a bit, Mason.
Oh, accidental. I didn't mean to intrude upon your territory.
No,
but...
it's okay. Further accentuated the dance.
Oh.
So if you would like to send a mailbag, you can do so at aapodcast.com. Just click on the mailbag button like SodiFan16 did. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, but you know who you are. Hello, AAA hosts. First time submission here. I want to thank you for all the hard work you do, and I love the varying viewpoints and experiences you bring to the podcast. I have been listening now since early 2022, so I missed a lot of content. What are some favorite or recommended episodes to go back and listen to? Mitsugi, what would you say?
I wrote some down here. Our presidential debate episode in episode 348 was pretty funny. The cooking episodes, which were episodes 231, 358, and 433. Those are pretty funny. And I think the Around the Horn episodes are good. That was episodes 605 and 652. So, some good options there. And Caroline has a little overlap.
Oh, yeah. I was also thinking of the cooking episodes. And of them, 358 is especially good because it's the first appearance of Mason on the podcast. So you got 2 for 1 in that one. One of my favorites was 428 with the great moments in anime history topic. I thought that was really fun. Just be aware that you might get some anime spoilers because we're talking about the great moments, and therefore some of those are spoiler-fied. So just going in knowing that. Episode 593 was fun because we made our own Shark Tanks, and that was the episode that Mitz door dashed me DQ in the middle of the show, and yeah, that was pretty fun for me.
You want DQ again?
But sure, if you want. But of our more recent ones that you probably have heard already, but others might not have, episode 659 stands out as I had to live watch Harem Isekai with Pancake, and apparently people just love to see me super uncomfortable. And so that one's one of people's favorites. And then episode 642, I Will Die on This Hill. That topic was one of my favorites. And yeah, pretty fun.
It'd be a shame if we did another ecchi watch in the upcoming episodes. That'd really be a bummer.
Oh, we're going to do it. It's coming up.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Next week, actually.
Mitz, you didn't like our presidential promises topic on episode 651?
I don't know. I can't remember everything, man. I'm old.
You did
No, I
two
thought that
presidential
one, but I
debates. They're all the
sucked
same.
so bad during that episode. Nobody liked any of my ideas. Not even I liked my ideas.
Oh, Caroline.
That's okay.
We liked your ideas.
No, you didn't.
Yes, we did. Of course.
Roll the tapes. No, but whatever. No big deal. We can't win them all.
Well, that's true. All right. Well,
But we can watch Jujutsu Kaisen and talk about it.
We can. So, I passed the Jujutsu. So we're gonna do our review of Jujutsu Kaisen season 2 right now. So preemptive super warning for spoilers, but just
not yet. We're gonna keep it non-spoilered for now.
Look, I don't want to get any hate mail or any 1-star iTunes reviews crying about it. So I'm just telling them now. We'll have we'll have an actual spoiler drop later, of course, but. So I passed this on episode 689. So it has been not that long. And I watched it on Crunchyroll. The synopsis, as it is from my anime list, Gojo and Geto are tasked with safely delivering a sensible girl named Riko to the entity whose existence is the very key essence of the Jujutsu world. 12 years later, students and sorcerers are the frontline defense against the rising number of high-level curses born from humans' negative emotions. As the entities grow in power, their self-awareness and ambitions increase too. The curses unite for the common goal of eradicating humans and to creating a world of only cursed energy users, led by a dangerous, ancient cursed spirit. Director Shota Shozono, which is a bizarre Japanese last name. Studio Mappa, based on a manga. Right off the bat, I just keep thinking, like, if the curses are born from humans' negative emotions, if they wipe out humans, doesn't that make them inevitably extinct too?
Well, the curses would be extinct.
Logic.
Okay, I'm just kidding.
But the sorcerers are still around.
All right, who are human mostly. Expectations prior to watching, Caroline.
I was expecting something peak because people were really hyping up the Shibuya incident, and that's basically what season 2 was. I mean, there was some more to it, but yeah, I was really expecting something good here.
What was more hyped, Bodark in Spy Family or Shibuya in Jujutsu Kaisen?
Bodark?
Boat Arc?
Oh, Boat Arc.
The ship, the cruise.
Shibuya incident was far more hyped, I think.
I'd hope so, but I wasn't sure. Okay, nice.
All right.
And I liked season
Mason?
1. I thought it was solid. I liked what JJK was bringing to the table. I'm not a huge fan of shonen, but this was more to my flavoring. I liked what it was working with. I liked the ingredients, and I was excited to get back into season 2. Mitz is walking away in a huff. He's probably dealing with something. Caroline, spoiler-free recommendations while he's away.
Okay. So yes, it is very good. It is JJK at its finest. If you did not like JJK, I don't know what to tell you. When comparing it to similar shonen shows, I would say that this is probably one of the most bloodiest and with the highest death count of shonen shows I've seen so far.
All right, recommendations.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry. We were waiting for your expectation going into it, if you want to share.
My expectations were more Jujutsu Kaisen. I really had seen at least a third of it already. This is one of the ones we were watching. So I pretty much knew, for the most part, what was coming. But, yeah, I mean, more Jujutsu, which is hit or miss for me because I thought the first season of Jujutsu Kaisen was fine, but I thought the movie kind of sucked. So
I like the movie.
it is hit or miss for me because some of the stuff in Jujutsu Kaisen is so silly that I just detach. Like, I'm not interested in any anime that has a fucking talking panda bear. End of story. I'm just not I'm not much fun like that. Like, I didn't like the talking bear in like Knights of Sidonia. I didn't like it in what the fuck was that show where where the girl climbs inside the guy's bear suit?
Gleipnir?
I didn't like it in Gleipnir.
That's a little different.
I don't like it in Danganronpa, and I don't like it in this. So, and there was an awful lot of panda bears and just dumb shit in that movie. But recommendations, Caroline.
Yeah, I already said I would. One thing that is a drawback, though, is it's been a while since season 1. And season 1 had a lot of stuff. It was too core. And since it's been so long, I really forgot a lot of details. I forgot whole characters existed. and so they'll mention some characters. I'm like, wait a minute. Who's that? What do they do? Why are they being mentioned? Why are they important? And so I had to Wikipedia some stuff. And that's partially my memory fault, but it's also partially the fact that there was such a large gap in between these seasons. And if they were individual 12 seasons, not too core, I might have been able to kind of remember a lot of those details better. Now, it didn't really bother me that much, but it still left me feeling just a little bit dissatisfied with my viewing experience, that I was like, oh, I kind of wish I was able to rewatch all of season 1, but that's quite an undertaking. So yeah, but still, overall, it was a good season.
Here's another question for both of you, and I think we can answer it without spoilers, but the beginning couple episodes of season 2 is a flashback that happens actually before the movie that takes place between the two seasons. It's a prequel to even that, which the movie Jujutsu Kaisen 0 is a prequel to season 1. So if someone came to you and said, hey, I've heard so many great things about Jujutsu Kaisen, what order should I watch them in? What would you recommend?
I would definitely recommend broadcast order.
Broadcast order? Okay.
Like with the character that they introduce in the movie, if they watch the movie first, I can guarantee you they will not remember who that character is.
I agree. I guess I just bring it up because I think a lot of the disconnect that people had with the movie Zero is that it being a prequel, it didn't have any of our main cast pretty much in it. So you're like, well, why do I care about this? Why do I want to go back to the boys and girls we love? Why are we watching this person? And there maybe could be the case that you watch season 1, the first 5 episodes of season 2, then watch the movie Zero, and then finish season 2 with the Shibuya arc. I'm not saying you should. I think I agree with Caroline. Broadcast is the way to go, but I don't know. Just food for thought. But Mitz, you can continue your recommendation. Sorry.
Yeah. I think that the anime is fine. I think that if you like the Jujutsu Kaisen style of shonen action, there's a whole lot of it in this. Like, that's essentially all there is, really. So if you like Jujutsu Kaisen's fighting style, you're going to like this a lot. If you don't like the Jujutsu Kaisen fighting style, and honestly, I'm kind of on the fence, to be perfectly honest with you, you're probably just not going to like it. The reality is that this is not your normal, like, sensical type fighting. Like, it's not Dragon Ball where they're like punching and shooting energy. It's not even Yu Yu Hakusho, where they're punching and some people have swords and some people can, fly and whatever. And it's, it's not Hunter x Hunter, where they have like some people have one or two techniques. Like, I don't know. The Jujutsu Kaisen's style is very bizarre, and all the characters have different abilities, and especially in this season, some of the characters just have fighting techniques that make no fucking sense at all. And it does get a little stupid. Like when people are shooting fish at each other, like try to kill each other, or when they're like, when a character can just endlessly like summon like Tetsuo looking blobs of whatever the fuck from like the floor of a subway, that's not really my thing. Like I much prefer the hand-to-hand combat, simple type action. And Jujutsu Kaisen just doesn't have a lot of that in it. It's mostly like people shooting their blood, or people shooting fish at each other, or one girl fights with a fucking hammer, which makes no sense. It's not Old Boy. But that said, the animation in this season is stunning at times, and it is some pretty goddamn solid shonen action. So if you're a fan of the shonen genre, it'll be you're probably gonna get a lot out of this. And the show does have some balls, because they do kill off some characters. I'm not gonna tell you who, but so there's some stakes there with that. But it may not be for everybody if you're not really gonna watch. Even if you don't want to watch, like I said, dudes shooting fish at each other, like if you like real fighting and not silly fighting, then you might not enjoy it, but we'll see. Caroline?
Sure, you went.
Mason?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good season. I would say I liked it more than season 1, though it was more of a mixed bag than season 1. I thought the fights this season were fantastic. I like their style. I think it's similar to Hunter x Hunter, where each character has their technique, their specialty, and this season really just pushed all of those techniques to the extreme. And it's how much can I use my ability to divide time, or shoot fish, as Mitz wants to call it, and push that in the most inventive, creative ways possible. I thought it was really engaging. I thought the fight choreography looked and moved a lot better than season 1, despite the production woes. I think the folks at MAPPA really put in a lot of good stuff. I think, as Caroline mentioned with the bloodiness, definitely inspired by their recent Hell's Paradise, where things are kind of gruesome and gross and gory, and certainly hair, obviously. It's good. I think it nails what it needed to do, despite a lot of missteps along the way that we'll get into. But at the end of the day, you're here for some fights. You're going to get a lot of fights, and I think most of them turned out pretty darn cool. So, yeah, Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2. Watch it. We're going to spoil it, and we're going to talk a whole heck of a lot about it. So, let's get into it.
Spoilers are coming. Oh my god!
Okay, so maybe we can talk first about how it does not open with the Shibuya incident, which was what I was expecting. I didn't realize we were going to get the Gojo Ghetto backstory, but was pleasantly surprised. Like, I was really interested. I was really interested in the two of them and their school life, if you can even call it school. Like, one of the drawbacks of Jujutsu Kaisen is that they call it Jujutsu High, as if they're going to school. But no, they're more like indentured servants. Just go risking their lives under the guise of being actual students when they're really doing all the work.
Well, it's high. They don't say the school part because they know. Yeah. They know. But yeah, so the first 5 episodes is the flashback, taking 2 years before the prequel movie and 12 years before season 1, the hidden inventory / premature death arc.
Wait, it's only 2 years before the movie?
Yeah.
Why did I think Gojo was so much older?
Because he matured a lot when he got all this stuff happened to him. I don't know. I thought this was fantastic. I get the thing of like, oh, it's a flashback, so we know these characters are alive. Like, we know that these stakes aren't as much. But the tone of episode 1, the dynamics and comedy of episode 2, the joy and the savagery of episode 3, the growth of episode 4, and the final like splintering of these two friends into episode 5. Yeah. It was just splendid all the way around. Every episode hit on so many different things. And yeah, we know Geto is a bad person because of the movie, but we didn't realize they were best of friends with Gojo. And we see how the brash cockiness of Gojo and the polite morality of Geto, just like, we know they are enemies, but how did they get there? And what changed them? And what, seeing all that develop across some awesome fights, some just the culmination, the building blocks of these two hyper powerful sorcerers was really engaging. And I think if it had ended at that, if it was just 5 episodes, this would easily be like a 4.5 out of 5 for me. This was such a good opening.
Yeah,
I loved it.
It was pretty good. I was surprised by like the development from like Geto being who he was and then his move to being a villain. I feel like honestly, the way it was going, I was expecting Gojo to go that way instead of Geto. But yeah, and so like his sudden like, oh my god, I'm going to kill everyone I love and I'm going to kill everyone else. That is quite a development, and I didn't quite see how he got to that point.
It
like,
felt a little forced with this lady that shows up who's like, man, oh man, all this curse energy sure does stink. Well, we could either get rid of all the humans or make them all sorcerers. And he's like, yeah, that's a good idea, actually.
I love that.
It was a little bit of a sudden thing, but it was good. Oh, maybe Lady Emery saying maybe I messed up the timeline. That it was 2 years. The movie was 2 years before season 1, and the flashback was 12 years before the movie. Maybe that's right. Anyway, sorry.
The whole time I was watching this season, I just kept thinking how abused the Mappa employees must be, because so many of the fight scenes are just so well animated. And they do use that like scratchy type of animation sometimes where it's not kind of complete, and I'm not sure how to describe it.
But it works.
It works.
It makes it intense. It's not as clean and on model as some people might not like, it's good.
I'm not even sure that that's the intent. I just think it's the way that they draw it. I don't know that it makes it any simpler or any easier or harder. But, some of the fight scenes, like the scene between, I don't know any of these characters' names, Volcano Head and...
That's... they all have very similar names, like Gojo, Geto, and Toto. I always get mixed up.
Volcano Head and...
Jogo, that's his name.
And the fucking... whatever the finger person that's inside of Itadori.
Kuna? You forgot that guy?
This show's got too many characters in it, so I don't know what to tell you. Like some of these fight scenes, like that one, for example, are just so insane that like it's almost worth watching this just for the spectacle of seeing like what can be done in these types of shows. To be honest with you, and but I will say that to me that fight was the peak of the season, and I honestly don't even know why they continued after that. Like,
because there was more story to tell.
I mean, they didn't tell a whole lot of story, if you want my opinion. But
they needed to finish the incident.
Yeah, I mean, but like I literally like was falling asleep. Like I was done with this with about 4 episodes left, because it's just too much. I mean,
I did feel like I got a little bit of fight fatigue. You see so many fights, and there are certain like it'd be one thing if the fights ended with one less villain, but oftentimes it didn't. And especially when you get Mahito and that's his name, right?
I got to look him up.
Yep.
Yeah, because I wasn't sure.
Patch face, whatever you want to call him.
Like at a certain point, you're just like, God damn it, just die, you motherfucker.
And
I mean, there was a lot of plot armor on a lot of different people.
Yeah, so much plot armor on the villains, not enough on the protagonists.
Well, the protagonists had quite a bit where.
Yeah, but I mean, like in terms of how it usually is what I'm saying.
God, this character whose name I'm trying to think of, he's not even in the top. This character is not even in the top 10 characters on my anime list, and this character is literally
they have a lot of characters.
Yeah,
Can you describe
too fucking many. Too fucking many.
What? Who are you? Like, can you describe this character?
Stitch's face.
That's Mahito.
Whatever. So yeah. So like, I think that this season is perfectly fine. It's probably the best Jujutsu Kaisen I've seen. I enjoy all the action. The problem with Jujutsu Kaisen Pancake looked at me this morning. She was like, "The fuck are you talking about?" I was like, "This shit is going on for too long." Like the Mahito fight at the end. First, that fight not only does it not make any sense at all, because he just does whatever.
Makes sense.
He doesn't. It doesn't. He literally can do whatever he wants. He literally took his head off, threw it, and then grew arms and legs out of his head, and the head was running with tiny arms and legs. Like none of that shit makes sense.
That's been his power. Are you trying to describe why like mystical things don't work in the physical world, or are you trying to understand how his power works?
I'm just
because it stays in logic within his powers.
What I'm trying to explain is that I don't like when the powers are fucking dumb and they make no sense, and the fights go on way too long, and there's too many characters. And I told Pancake, I was like, this fucking fight with Mahito, they've literally like the guy just won't die. And
yeah,
she's
like I get what you're saying. I get that too.
And she goes,
I don't understand.
No. I mean.
Well, wait,
some of his powers is one thing. I also like a hard magic system where I know generally how they can fight, but it does seem like Mahito can basically do everything, but that's just because he's OP.
Pancake looked at me.
After the fourth time they encounter Mahito, I was like, okay, let's clean this guy up. Like, at this point, he should have been dead.
So she goes, what are you talking about, Mitz? Like, you love Dragon Ball. Like, the Frieza fight takes forever. And I go, like, yeah. But the Frieza fight is essentially a couple characters that we've now had for like 300 episodes that is a lot more grounded in like sensibility. And I just, to be honest with you, like this season's fine. Like it'll get a good score, I promise. But like, rather than just sit here and like, suck its dick for an hour, I'm just going to say that like this show has got way too many characters in it to the extent that like when someone gets killed, I don't really care because they've only been on screen for like a short amount of time because there's probably fucking 40 characters that are fought in this season. And it's like, orange and yellow hair girls or whatever. Like, they died. Like, I didn't feel anything. Like, I just don't care. And so it's like the fights, they're long. And it's like, Dragon Ball's long. It's like, yeah, but like if Krillin dies, I feel that. Like, I care a lot about that because they've developed Krillin. He's been around. They've taken the time. Jujutsu Kaisen,
right back.
It's just too fucking much. Like, I'm actually going to count how many characters there are. I bet there's 60 characters in the credits on this season. The literal scroll wheel is like the size of a piece of paper as I'm scrolling through this on my browser because there's just too many. Like, there are little characters. Like, they were fighting Mahito, and like 7 more characters showed up. I literally said, who the fuck are these characters? Like, I didn't even remember any of them because they hadn't shown up since season 1 like 3.5 years ago. And I don't know. It's hard for me to like care about the outcome of the fights when nothing that happens remotely resembles. I don't really care for the like supernatural like ghost monster movie fight scenes when they summon giant monsters and there's like snakes, like the subway train turns into a giant monster and they're riding it. Like, I don't give a fuck. Like, honestly, like that's when I said like it's kind of hit or miss. Like, I like Itadori's fighting. That's fine.
He's always cool.
The blood laser, that was okay. The blonde guy that has, his weapons and
like that guy with the overalls.
The guy with the goggles and the blonde hair, he's cool. I like him. But most of the
Nanami, yeah.
But a lot of Nanami, but a lot of the villains in this, like, I can only take so many like monsters being summoned from like the concrete to fight people, before I'm just like, okay, like the Mahito fight didn't need to be 50 minutes long. That one was
probably the least interesting part of this for me. It might have something to do with the fact that it's, coming to the end of the season, you expected him to die sooner, and 3 different times they're fighting this guy. But the rest of the fights, most of the fights I thought were really great. Like, I think my favorite was probably Yuji versus Choso, like the guy with the blood bullets. That was pretty cool.
Just punching each other in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Nothing better than that.
And
yeah,
honestly, I thought one thing, like, even despite how many fights happen in this season, I thought it was it was still pretty unique in, like, the destination in which they are fighting and how they're having to fight each other.
There are 65 characters in the credits for this season. 65.
Oh my goodness, imagine having to pay attention to names and abilities. Like, it's not that hard.
But like
It's too much. I
yeah,
get
but,
it.
Yeah, but they kill a character and they've been on screen for 14 seconds. Like, what? Who gives a fuck? I can't keep track of all these characters. They're not on the screen long enough for me to have developed any kind of emotional connection whatsoever.
Well, most of these characters were already in the show in season 1.
Yeah,
so,
well, I mean, which was quite a while ago, so.
Yeah, sure, but you can't say you had no connection.
Yeah, you have to pay attention to get why it works. If you're like, oh, I forgot everyone, I don't care why it dies. That's fair. That explains why you didn't connect to it. And you could criticize the show for taking so long between seasons, but I still think like the show did well to establish why you should care about all the deaths. I think the show established all the powers well enough. Yeah, it can feel a little over the top, but everyone is working within the like logic system of the show. Like, I guess if you just don't like superpowers, that's fair. But then to be like, oh, it makes no sense. How is he doing the thing that it's been well explained how it works? I don't know.
No, it's not a matter of not understanding how they do it, because as far as I'm concerned, they can literally do anything they want. The one guy literally picked up 2 skyscrapers and smashed them together. Like, they can do anything. It doesn't, like, deer.
That sounds like Dragon Ball to me. I don't know.
No, Dragon Ball, they shoot beams at each other and punch and kick.
Beams, and the other guy shoots beams. Everyone just has the same beams, and everyone just has the same energy.
That's fine. That's fine.
But I don't know.
That's fine, but let's be honest. Jujutsu Kaisen can't sniff Dragon Ball's underwear, so.
Oh my goodness, JJK
Are you
is so much better. It's not even fun.
Call me in 35 years and see if anybody even remembers what Jujutsu Kaisen is, but I can guarantee you they won't.
With how much you say, well, I'm too old for this. I'm too old to enjoy this type of show, and yet Jujutsu, the Dragon Ball Z is literally made for children.
For 20 episodes, so I could keep track of all of them.
Call me in 35 years, and we'll see if people still care. But I'm not saying I didn't understand how they could fight like that. Like, it's obvious they can just do whatever they want because they're cursed spirits or whatever. It's just, to me, it's fight fatigue, and when there's too many characters, and like, my feelings are my feelings. Like, I don't think you guys can really tell me that I'm not allowed to not identify with a character dying. I felt nothing.
Said you couldn't.
I felt nothing.
It's just your reasons are off.
Yeah.
That's my prerogative. The show failed to deliver an emotional response to many characters dying this season, and that isn't anybody's fault except the show's fault. Not everybody's going to have the same mileage on their emotions with characters getting killed, but
You're correct.
I
think we
care.
all agree. Too much fights, just one after another, and the biggest issue being a lot of these are just the same villains we saw in season 1, and it's just so recycled. Yeah, they looked good. They were really snappy, but like, tell me that you cared about the Mahito versus Mechamaru fight, the kind of that episode 6-7 transition up into the Shibuya arc. Like, I was like, yeah, this looks cool, but I could not care at all. And yeah, it just, so many of the fights just were fatiguing in a way. And the Shibuya arc definitely felt dragged out. And I knew the second it was going to happen when, Itadori encounters this like grasshopper creature on the subway. He's like, you'll never guess what kind of creature I am. And Itadori's like, yeah, you're a grasshopper person. And there's like a 10-second long response where the grasshopper's like, what? It's just that like tonality miss of comedy just kind of carried throughout some of it. Just things were so dragged out. Like this explanation I'm giving. There's times where he's like, Itadori, listen to me, says this little walkie-talkie guy. I'll only say this once. Proceeds to say the thing like two or three times. Yeah. It just misstepped in a lot of ways. Visually, it did start to falter a bit after episode 8, and just with worse compositing, less smooth animation, more shortcuts. And it really kind of hurt because, as Mitz mentioned, there was a bunch of production issues, some insane deadlines set by inane production goals that hurt my soul because, damn, the animators busted their butt above and beyond to deliver such a solid product. This looks fantastic across the board. Yeah, there's a couple fights here and there where you could see it start to fall apart, but they did such a good job. And it could have been even better had it not been for just extreme overwork and just bad scheduling. And as good as it is, it could have been so much better, and that's kind of hurts my soul.
I think one of the problems that we are thinking of with how we felt about the fights was partially because the conclusion of each fight did not feel like a step forward or even a step back. It just kind of felt there was no like satisfying, or was rarely a satisfying conclusion to the end of the fight, especially with how long some of the fights are. And I feel like that is one of my overall problems by the end of the season, because like I really loved this season, but the end, I really was loving the Shibuya arc, but the ending of the arc is such a letdown for me because, okay, I mean, and this major spoilers, but they don't get Gojo back, and it felt like what was all that for? And
There's a
not
lack
even
of a resolution.
and
Yeah.
not even like in a way that, oh, it's supposed to be tragedy, you know, that they didn't get far. It didn't even feel like that. It just kind of felt like with how much buildup was being brought into this whole situation, and it didn't really feel like anything happened by the end of it.
It's just an oppressively bleak experience. There's not very many moments of like, huzzah, we did the thing.
Yeah.
You get excited because you're like, oh, dang, Toto showed up. Awesome, hype. And
Yeah.
he makes his big entrance. But then he's just another pawn in the fight. And another one joins, and another person joins, and another person joins. And you're like, oh, I remember that person. Neat. Oh, that's cool. She's a lady from earlier. But then it's just the same flavor. You're adding more spices to this dish, but the flavor is just getting so bogged down with what's already there that you're like, okay, I got it. Let me just chew with the pieces we have. I don't need 8 more, chess pieces being brought back onto the board. And you don't get those little, like you were saying, Caroline, steps along the way of, oh, this fight ended and this was the result, good or bad. It just kind of persisted in one gelatinous goop of the same flavor served over and over and over. And you're just like, okay, I get it. And they tried to sprinkle in some comedy here and there, but when you're so deep in the trenches of this is the fight for our lives and people are getting murked left and right, someone's like, haha, it's a chibi face. Like, I don't know if that's enough. Like, I like the more relaxed storytelling of season 1, but I can't deny that, like, for 2 quarters, this was pretty entertaining, easy to watch, even if it did get a little tiresome by the end.
Yeah, like really, I was really binging this show. It is not a hard binge whatsoever.
Yeah.
It goes pretty quick. I have a few more comments. I
Yeah,
really like
go
this.
for it.
I really like the cinematography in this.
Yep.
There were a lot of moments, but the one I remember the most was when Nanami's like at the beach or whatever in his mind, and he's like at the end of his life, and he's like walking. I think it was Nanami, and he's walking, and his hand movements and stuff are being translated into like the place that he is mentally. When he got like half his body barbecued or whatever. That was excellent. There was a moment early on with I watched it so long ago I can't remember, but with Itadori, where he was I can't even remember. He was thinking about something, and then they cut away to this other scene, and it just blended the two together so perfectly. There's just a lot of great cinematography in this, and they definitely find ways to creatively express like emotions and things like that throughout the show, which I thought was really better than it needed to be for a shonen where they're just fighting the whole time.
Yeah, like that whole Nanami stuff, it killed me. Like it felt like they just tortured this guy to death. It just why did they need to do that to my boy?
He's such a hunk. We love him.
I will say one observation. This isn't really a criticism or a positive, but like the power creep is intense in this. Like they went from like showing Gojo off like early on to like a whole nother. Everybody's past Gojo at this point. Like I don't know. I know he's supposed to be like, oh, he's the ultimate or whatever. But from what I've actually witnessed, he is like 7th or 8th at this point. Like Itadori is past him, Sukuna is past him, the fire guy was past him, fucking Stitches guy was past him, Gato, I'm sure, everybody. Like not even the guy that like got born and then randomly killed himself for some unknown reason. That guy.
Wait, you're talking about Toji? No. He was not unknown reason.
Whatever, he just stabbed himself in the head. I didn't really see that.
Yeah, because he found out he was literally fighting his son. So he had to kill himself.
See,
Yeah. I mean, Gojo is clearly
he could
still
have
the
just stopped
strongest.
fighting, but but I guess he
Well,
was kind
I
of.
mean,
because
he
he
wasn't even supposed to be there in the first place.
Yeah, well.
And it
And
wasn't.
Gojo is the
wasn't-
strongest. The whole point that this whole arc even happened is because they were able to trap Gojo, and he couldn't solve all these issues.
I just haven't seen Gojo do anything remotely close to lifting 2 skyscrapers and smashing them.
I think
you
he
know,
could
like-
if you
I
wanted.
think
Well, maybe he
this-
could, but I
think
haven't
the
seen it.
flashback-
We haven't
the
seen it
flashback
happen.
Indicated it. Yeah, that's fair. But
But the other, and then I have a criticism. This show, while they're doing they're part of the reason why the fights in this feel a little too long is because there's way too much explanatory gobbledygook nonsense while they're fighting. Like there is so much like, oh, the metaverse, ectoplasm, spiritual attachment of my soul and all this. Like, just shut the fuck up and fight. Like, I don't need you to explain every fucking thing that makes absolutely no sense because it's all pseudo crap. Just fight. Like, I don't need Inuyasha explaining how the wind scar works every episode, and I don't need Mahito explaining how he's at 40%, and if he takes one more hit from the soul, but oh wait, I have like this metaphysical blah blah. I just don't care. I do not care. I will never care. I didn't care in Godzilla singular whatever, and I don't care in this. It's just too much. Just punch and kill each other. I don't need it. Did you guys feel that way at all? Like, it's just too. Why even explain stuff that's based in nothing? It's like what I have to like sit here and digest some fake.
because you're
like
trying to explain how the power system works that you
But I
just
don't
called
care.
nonsense.
Yeah, but I don't care.
That's fair. If you just are just like he shoots the thing, he can do the thing. That's all you need. That's perfect.
But
that's fine.
Yeah,
And
the
if
reason-
you're saying that messes with the flow, if they're just talking,
Oh, it does.
just fight. Sure, go for it. But with the powers that they're trying to say, so they're trying to give some reason. Yeah, it's all nonsense gobbledygook, but
Yeah.
it makes sense within the logic of the show. They spend so much time saying, "Oh, Gojo can." Tortoise and the hair, the whole paradox on how his infinity works. Like, you can be like, yeah, people can't touch him and just take it at face value, or you can try to digest the deeper mechanisms of the power if you're into that.
I just think it slows the fights down. Like, they're in the middle of the fight, and I have to listen to you talk about something for 45 seconds.
But it
Like-
explains how they work in a way that could be satisfying to understand why can this person now all of a sudden do this next leap of logic? How can Gojo now do purple? How does this come about? Well, if you confuse his other powers, like, I get not being engaged with it, but I think it's a nice touch. But yeah, you could argue it does mess with the flow.
Yeah,
I wasn't too bothered by it.
and I have ADHD, and I don't remember that shit for 15 seconds. I read it, and I'm like, 15 seconds later, it's gone. I'm like, boom, don't remember. I can't actually regurgitate a single comment related to that stuff, other than the fact that it was all over the show. I retain none of it. So
You just like big fights. That's
no,
it.
I have
You, like, expect-
ADHD, and it's just like when I'm reading a book, I'll read a whole paragraph, and then I'll realize I was thinking about something else while I was reading, and I have to read the whole paragraph again.
Mhm.
The gobbledygook probably wouldn't make sense even if I retained it, but I didn't. So, but it does. I understand a fist landing in someone's eye socket, but like that doesn't. But the flow is heavily disturbed when they have to explain how the fist connects with the eye socket. I don't need you to explain it. Just fucking do it.
To me, this whole series, the Shibuya arc, I should say, felt a lot like Hunter x Hunter's Chimera Ant arc, where there's just a lot of pieces
Yeah.
going on at the same time, and the show was very meticulously trying to make you follow everything on a second-by-second basis, which could feel either dragged out and boring or really engaging, and I could see both sides having a valid point.
And lastly, and this is probably the last thing I have to say, honestly, I thought the first half of this season was way better than the second half.
The first 5 episodes.
The first 5 episodes, the best part of the whole season was when Gojo got absolutely depantsed by, in that fight scene. I was like, wow, he looks really dead. And of course he wasn't, but that was excellent. Mm-hmm. And then probably the first 10, they took the barrier down, and I was like, oh, this is great. They're gonna have like 5 levels of barriers. It's gonna be so cool. I'm not sure they ever actually went bothered to go through all that, but I thought it was pretty.
No, I completely agree with you, Mitch. That was the first 5 episodes and like the first real meaty chunk of the Shibuya arc.
Yeah,
Before
and
it started
then the fight with Sukuna was like the action peak, I thought. Man, I wanted...
Like, it was kind of shocking, just like how much, because I was not
Yeah.
expecting them to completely nuke Shibuya.
Oh, the whole thing's gone.
Like, I was I was like, surely they can't go that far, right? But no, they did.
I got a lot of Evangelion with the ending of just like
Yeah.
a lot of characters talking with like still frame images of parts of Tokyo just desolate and just empty. I thought that was really unique in a nice way that made you feel that heaviness as the shadowy circle of like destruction just like slowly increased in scope.
I had a thought and then I lost it. Oh well.
It'll come back. I thought the music was pretty good. You had some fights that were filled with like this hectic jazziness. Some had this electronic beats going on. It had a lot of variety that I thought the fights themselves could have used. But yeah, music was good. Voice acting, I watched a little bit of sub, or mostly sub, a little bit of dub. I thought both were
Yuji
pretty
is
competent.
the voice actor for Yuji is just so freaking good. I love him.
Yeah, it was solid. It was just a well-produced show despite all the woes in its production, and I think it really held up. Listen, I can't do fighting shows. It really doesn't do much for me, but there was enough creativity in the choreography, in the directing, and the powers, and the whole package that made it engaging for me. So,
Now, I have one question. What the frick happened to Maki? Because they kind of forgot about the fact that they just like blew her up in fire, and I'm like thinking to myself, surely she's not dead,
She's
right?
dead. I hope so.
No, she cannot be dead. They didn't give her a send-off.
Well, I thought she was a horrible character. I hated her, so I'm glad
Why didn't
she's
you
dead.
like Maki?
I honestly
Shame.
don't think
I
you
like
want to hear
Maki.
my reasons.
I
why don't like Maki.
want to know what. Can you at least confirm or deny? Can you show me a body? Show me the body, and I would be very upset. But at least I wouldn't be dealing with the question: is she or is she not alive? I want her to be alive.
they did drop a lot of, oh, this character died. They got the send off, but then some medic character things like, oh, I tried my best to try to fix them. They might be okay, but they might not. Don't get your hopes up.
Okay, and
Like,
we'll go
leave
when they
in
say
our
that we
back
all know
pocket.
she's going to be okay.
There was some of that I'm just like, just fair. Like, I don't like when the plot armor kind of gets resolved later. There's a time where Itadori almost dies, and the character just sees a vision right before he kills him, and he's like, maybe I'll just go insane for a little bit and like walk away. And they, kind of explained it, but it feels cheap in the moment, and moments like that just are kind of whatever. I did think this season did a lot to improve retrospectively what I thought about the movie, and probably would enjoy it more knowing more of the context and how it's all going to play out. I don't know, though. My biggest concern is that this is going to be the rest of Jujutsu Kaisen. Gone are the days of fun little high school trips and personality growing
Everything's gone to
exercises.
shit.
It's just going to become grimdark fights until the end of the series. And while I enjoyed this part, if this is what's the future, this is the outlook, I don't know if I want that. I don't
Yeah,
think
and it
that's what I'm
happens
going to
all the
come to
time.
it for.
It happens all the time. Like when we get to a such highly anticipated part and it's freaking awesome and peak, the drop is very noticeable, and it really can affect like the viewership going forward.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that's not the case. I guess I think there's still some interesting stuff coming up, but probably not to this scale. And honestly, everything is probably just going to be depressing. Just it's no longer there's not going to be much levity.
Depressing
what's
is
coming up, I think.
fine, but there needs to be the characters and story of the the people going with it, instead of just he fights him and then he fights him and he's got a new power and he fights him and he's powered up and now he fights. Give me why. Give me a reason to care. But I think we're ready to score this.
Oh, I have a couple more things actually.
Okay, yeah.
What was with that scene with Mei Mei and Wee Wee? Like, what was that?
What is with
Yeah.
in the bed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is with Mei Mei's hair? That's the dumbest shit.
Oh,
I've
I
ever
hate her
seen.
hair. That's we've already discussed that in the past, I think.
It's
Yeah,
funny
that's-
because her hair was fine in the flashback.
In that scene.
And she's like, what if I just blind myself?
Oh yeah, in the
She
flashback.
likes
Kind
to.
of weird.
She likes to take it from her. She likes her little brother in the sack. What do you want me to say?
Oh, that is so.
I mean,
why?
so it
why?
didn't-
Why did they
they
do that?
hadn't
What was the purpose?
Done anything. It seemed like a first time just like sleep with her, but then it seemed weirder than that. I mean, she's always been shown as being very much about profit, about herself, and to have a weird cutaway, I think it was more just to be like, so she's working on the inside, being like, yeah, this is going to mess up globally all of Japan's like influence. This is a big deal. Like, try to show some more outreach to it, but no, didn't seem very necessary. Kind of weird.
Yeah, and I love how so many people are being held responsible and getting corporal punishment, and I still don't know exactly why. And yet she goes AWOL. She's perfectly fine, apparently. She goes to Malaysia during one of the worst tragedies that ever happened in Japan.
Yeah.
World, perhaps.
It's the ignorance of people who are saying, well, clearly Sukuna is the root of a lot of this.
Okay,
and
yeah.
all those
and
who abetted his
I can
continued
understand
existence.
that because they were all in favor of executing him. Gojo's now not here, so why? Like, even if he had not gone crazy, then I could have seen them trying to get him executed again. But then I got confused by, like, why was Gojo considered an accomplice to the incident? Obviously, he did not get trapped in a box for, like, he didn't volunteer for that.
Yeah. I
can only guess it's, like, just corrupt Jujutsu society wanting to
and
keep
the thing
him.
is, they're scared of his power. In the same way, I think that it was a good metaphor of the same way, the 4-minute mile time. Like, running it was seen as this impressive feat that, like, was on the pinnacle of what any human could ever do. And the second that first person kind of broke the seal in a way, it allowed everyone to be like, oh, we can get stronger. And that's how they see Gojo. His strength is kind of pulling up the sorcerers and curses alike with how much stronger they can actually become. And that scares those in charge who don't have quite the same power. And they'll use whatever they can to get rid of him.
But when
even if it's not fair.
But when you think about how fucked these guys are, and yet they are saying, like, okay, we're going to execute the principal, we're going to execute this guy, and then we are going to execute Gojo, even though Gojo is the key to bringing everything back to normal.
Well, he's the savior, but he's also, he's a nuke that they're holding, and that's dangerous. Better to just disable it.
I think you should keep who you have, because it seems like they're dropping like flies.
I don't think you're supposed to sympathize.
I know
with
what you're
the
saying. I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
It probably is just their corruption and all that. I just think that it's kind of weird at what their priorities are.
Yeah, I can't. And I haven't read the manga. I can't speak to more of the reasons. I just saw what you saw, and I'm extrapolating. But
yeah,
it was fun. What else you got?
Yeah, it was.
Or Mitz, did you remember your point?
I just wanted more of that guy that offed himself.
Toji?
Well, he was
pretty awesome.
I mean, he was presented as being basically like entirely unstoppable and invincible, and I wanted to see him get like put up against some of the more powerful characters, but we never got to see that.
I mean, we saw him against Gojo.
You got that with Mahito. You got that with Mahito, and you didn't like it.
No, I guess we're talking about the wrong character.
No, like you are talking about Toji, and yeah, he is GOAT, but what you wanted for him was for more powerful people to get up to him and try to stop him, but that's what we got with Mahito, and you didn't like that anyway. So, and I think there's something to be said about a very powerful character. The only way to stop him is if he stops himself, which is what happened.
I mean, we saw Toji fight Gojo, though. So, and he died there. So you got that big fight there.
I don't like Mahito because I don't like fights that don't make any sense.
Well,
and
another thing I want to talk about.
Also, that shit went on for an hour, literally, of him just shooting worms and crap out of his arms. Like, okay, and a whole hour of that, like, it's too much.
One more thing, like, we can't not talk about Toto. Like, what
he's so
a
good.
guy! What a freaking guy! I love him, even though he's so weird. He says really weird things.
Daddy,
he's kind of uncomfortable, but man, he's so freaking entertaining. And
his idle illusions of his fights.
Yeah. and what happens to him? I'm like, oh, like, and as we were saying, like they were ballsy in how many characters they kill off. They're also ballsy in how they maim a lot of these characters to the point where you wonder how they're going to fight again.
Yeah, that hit hard, and his whole like send off.
I'm like, I love the Boogie really Woogie. I freaking love his ability, and the fact that we might never get to Boogie Woogie again kills me.
I think his fights are by far and away my favorite. Every time they happen, I go back and rewatch them because I just love following the clapping and they throw a rock and he claps, and now he's the rock, and now they throw the rock from the rock, and then this
It's
happens,
so
and these two
cool.
guys switch, and then these guys switch. Like, it's a lot, and that's part of that choreography, the fight directing that I think this season does so well, especially compared to season 1. I think
Yeah,
it was
and
just
actually-
really sharp.
That reminds me of something I was thinking of when I was watching it. Like just this season in general. Like the fights are just so like just so well done. And like that's such an understatement, but it feels like a waste to have only seen it once. It's that kind of fight. Because of how much work and how
Go watch it
cool
again.
it is. Yeah, but I'm just saying like that's the quality. It's like it seems like a waste to watch it once.
Odo Supercut YouTube. Just watch that on loop.
Yeah.
It's awesome. We good?
But yeah, I think we're good.
Okay. Who
Let's
wants to
start
go
with
first?
Let's start with Caroline.
All right. Well, yeah, the season 2 is really great. It does has its drawbacks as we have talked about, but that's only because the rest of it is so good that we want it to be perfect. But I am hoping that the rest of what's to come kind of lives up to at least way of what this arc was. And I'm interested to see what it is, at least. But that being said, like the conclusion of the arc wasn't my favorite. You know, I just needed something more concrete. But I think with this season, I'm gonna give it 4.5 boogie woogies out of 5. That we may never boogie woogie again.
Mason.
Yeah, this was a good season, very decent, despite all my qualms with it. At the end of the day, it was fun. It was entertaining. It made me think. It made me aspire for shows to reach similar heights in its presentation, even if they were a little much in some respects. So I will give this an easy 4 fingers out of 5. Wasn't expecting him to just start choking him down. Don't know how you eat 15 fingers when you're unconscious, but hey, good on you. Well, maybe only ate 11. I don't remember. Either way, it was a good time. I liked it.
Season was good. Best part about it was the animation, stylization, quite excellent. The opening theme, quite awesome.
Good.
For me, I don't know, a little too much. Some of the fights were just too long. I think the biggest problem is that this show is getting a little bit of the Attack on Titan treatment. At least I'm consistent. If you want me to care about a character dying, I need to at least remember the first season. And since it was 3 years ago, I don't remember very much of it. And there's no fucking way I have time to go back and watch that, so I'm not going to. And so when people get murked, I'm like, okay. Like, I'm happy they die. I'm like, great. They should die.
Now
Like,
I don't have to keep track of them anymore.
well, literally, like what they're
One
doing.
less character.
Literally, what is happening to them, they should all be dead. So, I mean, honestly, like, there's no real rationale for why they're not all dead.
It does feel surprising that so many of them survived.
I mean,
since-
Itadori, who, by the way, I can't stand his name. It's just a terrible last name to be, like, spoken. It's just not easy to say. Is like, I mean, he had so much blood and so many wounds came out of him. I'm like, this guy would have died long ago. But, you know.
Yeah, does he have regenerative powers? Is that
No, he has plot
a thing?
armor.
No, but he has had a lot of. I mean, he had like 2 medic people come and like patch him up mid-fight.
Yeah,
so.
I just thought because I thought he got several wounds that kind of just dissipated. Like, didn't he have like a whole cut in his mouth, or was that just blood? Like, I thought he.
No, he had the hole on the left side. He had
Yeah,
that.
but by the end of the season, I thought it looked like it healed and it just had
Listen,
blood on it.
he's got the dog in him. You can't stop that.
Oh my god, when he was walking towards Mahito in that like in that Winterland
Yeah.
scene, and they still didn't fucking kill him the way that you wanted it to. Ah, it killed me. It killed me when it didn't happen.
Yeah.
That was another con. That was the main thing.
Biggest reason Mahito didn't die.
Because he walked. He could have ran.
Yeah,
Keep
I was
going.
truly bored throughout the whole Mahito section. He's just annoying and overly insane for no reason. I actually fell asleep during the last episode and slept through probably 3/4 of it. And I woke up and I asked Pancake, I said, what happened? She was like, this and this and this. And then everyone else seems to hate the ending, so I didn't even see the bad ending. I'm not going to go back and watch it.
I like the
But the fact that I literally fell asleep this morning during the rest of that fight, not a great sign. It's still fine. It's just a little too it's just too much. I don't know. I'm gonna give it 3.5. I don't know. I like to understand what the fuck is going on out of 5 when people are fighting. I'm just trying to think of like the best example of that. And certain characters just like become very powerful out of nowhere. Like that fire guy, I had no idea he was basically
he was a bit of a surprise.
Oh, this fire guy that's been in the show the whole time. I recognized him. I was like, this fire guy.
Goblin. I was like, you can pick this guy and he would die.
He would have erased Itadori in 2 seconds. Like literally, he literally just walked up to Nanami and just erased him. Boom, gone. This person gone. This person gone. Oh, I'm gonna fight toe to toe with Sukuna for like 45 minutes. I had no idea, honestly, but like some of the power structures in the show, I don't have a very good sense of like who is and who isn't the most powerful like in the show, because it seems like a lot of the younger looking people end up being like fucking weak as shit, and then I have no idea how Hand Clap Man can fight with Mahito. Like based on what I saw, he should have been killed immediately, but
well,
whatever.
I don't know about
Well, if you watched the fight, you'd see how he wasn't.
Oh, I watched it. I watched the fight for the whole 70 minutes until I fell asleep when the ice person showed up. And I was like, who the fuck is the ice person?
I was like, at that point, I was like, come on.
What? Like,
why?
Oh, we're at the end of the season. You're going to throw 7 more characters in there that like Jesus, how many of them are there? Like, it was just like endless characters. Ugh, it was just too much. Yeah. Even Hunter x Hunter doesn't have that many fucking characters. I mean, might. But not all at once, though.
Yeah, that makes it a 4. That's good.
It's a 4. I mean, a 4 is fair. Especially for a show that apparently had production problems. So I didn't really notice them, though, to be honest.
I think the problems came that they were pushing the animators to the point of it being
killed. Of
animators and directors and a ton of folks.
What we are watching is the product of them being killed over.
I'm amazed we even still have anime. Like, honestly, like these people are crazy. Like, you're being paid dirt to work like 1,000 hours. Like, I would have quit in the first week.
Didn't you watch Zom 100? Oh wait, you didn't pay attention to that either. Welcome to the Anime Addicts Anonymous podcast.
I still have brain cells left, so I didn't pay too much attention.
Still here, baby. We're still in it. And we're still trying to make your anime addiction worse. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode. We squabbled a bit, but we have fun. We love doing it. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Discord, or TikTok, where we post all sorts of things, bonus content. Stay tuned. Caroline's got some waifu stuff on the way, so get hyped for that. We always appreciate your support, your reviews, spreading the good word. And we love you guys well and truly. So thank you so much for listening. We will see you next episode with Winter 2024 season impressions and maybe some watching stuff that we got going on that might make Caroline feel really embarrassed. So stay tuned for that.
Week?
I think so, my friend.
No, I have.
Oh, I got a toothache
look at the
scheduled that day.
time.
Can't make it. Oh well. Thanks so much, everyone. We will see you then. Keep watching anime. We'll see you there. Bye.
Peace
Bye.
out.